Okay. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I am the Y2K Collector and I'm back. I've got a quick Monday video for you. I've been thinking about some of the recent videos that I've been putting out, some of the topics that I've been talking about to collect or not to collect. Is it a good time to start collecting? Is it not? And these are all very subjective topics, and the answers are going to vary from person to person. A lot of it really depends on where you're at, right? Where you're at in your gaming journey, where you're at in life, where your pockets are at, right? Where your finances are at. There's so many factors that go into it. And I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about the three avenues, or the three different ways that I collect and the three different ways that I've been collecting. And there really are only three ways that you can go about doing this. And I think you can use all of these methods to collect to varying degrees. You can be successful in all three. You can fail in all three. It just depends on how much research you're doing, how diligent you are, how patient you are, and the types of games that you're going for. So without any more jabbering or blabbering, I'm going to kind of get into these three ways that I go about it. And the first way, obviously, is going to be going into a store. And to me, that's any store, right? So whether you're going into Goodwill, whether you're going into Best Buy, whether you're going into your local game store, a pawn shop, anything like that, anything retail, I should say, where you're buying, you're paying sales tax, things of that nature in a store. That's the first way. Now, you can be successful at any store, thrift store, a retail store, Best Buy, or gaming store. You could be successful in all of those places, and you can fail in all those places. Why do I say that? I say that because there are plenty of times on Best Buy, I can walk into a Best Buy and I'll look at a game, I'll see a game at a certain price, but then I'll go back maybe a week later and the game is $15 off or $20 off, or maybe they have it on clearance and it's, half off or 60% off. I've seen some games go for very, very cheap. In fact, I remember and I think they may have just been trying to get rid of this batch, but I remember when Best Buy, hit like a crazy clearance on Raiden 5. And you were able to get Raiden 5 for $15. Raiden 5 right now, I think it's going for like $99 or something on eBay, or maybe it's come down. I don't know, but I for sure know it's not going for $15. And that's just an instance where if you were patient, if you were able to catch that sale and get that steal, you're in your mind, man, I got a steal, right? But there's another person who probably walked into Best Buy and paid full price for Raiden, which may have been $49.99 or $39.99, something in that neighborhood. So you can fail even at a retail store, just depending on when you go for something, when you purchase it. Same thing for some retro game stores. I have not a bunch, because in my neighborhood, or in my area, I should say, in my metropolitan area, there are really not a ton of retro gaming stores. Now, the ones that we do have are pretty darn potent, but there's not a lot of them. So, but what I've even noticed is that even in some of the local gaming stores, their prices change, right? So there are games that I bought when I was, getting into collecting more hardcore, even up to last year. I remember walking into my local game store, and I've got an example here. I walked in and I picked up this copy of Lost Dimension for the PS Vita. And I was building my collection and I was in the store just kind of browsing, and I said, hey, how much for that sealed copy of Lost Dimension? Atlas game, action RPG, pretty darn cool. And at the time they were selling it to me for about $39.99 or $40. So I paid $40, which is retail for Lost Dimension. But again, Lost Dimension is one of those games that if you were to try to find it, you can't really find it in most stores. You'd have to go online, which we'll get to online. But Lost Dimension is an example of just walking into a local game store and grabbing a deal. I would say a game. Oh, and by the way, for those who are wondering what I was talking about when I was talking about Raiden 5, this is Raiden 5. And Raiden 5 now goes for a pretty penny. But this was a $15 Best Buy game. You know what I mean? About a year ago. So it just goes to show you that you can win in retail stores. You can lose in retail stores or any of those stores. Now, I know some might say, well, man, how could you lose by going into a Goodwill? And I think that sometimes we get so caught up in getting something for cheap that we run in and we buy junk, and we know it's junk, but we buy it anyway, just because it's so cheap. And real estate in my game room is very expensive. Like I can't put, I don't want to put a game that I'm not going to enjoy, one, or a game that I have absolute no interest in just because I got it for cheap. That for me is just a waste of time. Time is limited as it is, and space is limited. So I really just try to reserve my shelf space for the games that I like. So to me, going into like a thrift store, pawn shop, and seeing a game that I have no desire to own and seeing it for $3 does not make me want to buy it just because it's $3. But again, that's just the way that I collect. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to do their own thing. Do what makes you happy. I'm just not going to feel happy knowing I paid $3 for a game I care nothing about. But that's just me. So the retail stores is one way you can collect. Another way you can collect is by then jumping online, right? And when I say jumping online, I'm really more so talking about eBay, Mercari, all of these sites where you're buying from a person, not so much a business or an online retail store. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that there are certain retail stores that have online retail stores and they're on eBay. I get it. But just for the sake of this, because it's my video, I'm going to clump all that into eBay, right? It's my video, so I can do it. You want to argue something else? Go shoot a video and post it on YouTube. But anyway, so yeah, so eBay, Mercari, things like that. I'm also going to include Facebook groups, online forums, Discords, things like that. Anything where you're just interacting with the gaming community directly. That's another way you can go about it. I would say that that's probably, when you're going through a community, that's definitely you're gonna be able to find things a bit more reasonably there, because they're gonna want to look out for folks in the community. When it comes to eBay is a bit of the wild, wild west. It's very much the wild, wild west. I know that there are a lot of people who shun eBay, Mercari, OfferUp, things like that. They shun those because they feel like that's just a place where people go to gouge the unknowing. But again, this is where research comes in, doing your homework, looking at what games are actually selling for, then determining in yourself, is it just because someone was willing to pay this for it? Does it mean that I want to pay that for it? These are all things you got to ask yourself, right? And these shouldn't be things that you're sitting pondering about. You should be able to make these decisions in a snap decision and kind of know, all right, this is something that I want. And I think that's how most gamers look at it. But I think sometimes we get, just a bit carried away. So you got to kind of know how to check yourself as well. So, but I think online retailers is definitely another way to go. And I use online retailers a lot of times when I can't find a game in an actual store, or when I can't, I can't do anything like that. When all I have is just the time to, time pretty much to live life. I don't have the time. May not have the time to hit up as many thrift stores as I want to, or game stores. And sometimes I got to jump online, and I've done that before. And I had to do that. I do that a lot when it comes to the imports, of course, right? So when it comes to the imports, you just got to do it. You're not going to find them really in any stores. And an example of that would be Golden Force, Right now, there are two versions to this game, and you can get the straight import version that comes from Pixel Heart. But the cool cats down over at Video Games New York, VGNY, they had the special hookup, and I was able to get a copy from them that has like the whole US rating on it. So, but this is a very cool, I do have the download version of this. This is a very cool 2D action platforming game. You get to pick one of 4 characters, some pretty cool moves. The levels are bright and colorful. Just a really fun game, a type of game that I would really enjoy. And that's not a game that I could really walk into Best Buy or even go on BestBuy.com. Maybe it's on Best Buy, I haven't checked, but that was a game at the time that I was buying it that you could only get it from a few sources. So yeah, there are instances where I'll have to jump online, and I just can't get the game any other way because it's not near me. So that's another way. The last way that I would say is I think one of the best ways, and I don't want to say that it's the cheapest way, because it takes a lot of time, but that way is going to be the yard sales. And there's a reason why I put these in a separate category from anything else, because this is the most grassroots way you can go about building a video game collection. And I mean, it takes heart. That's part one. Part two, a lot of what you'll actually get out of hitting up yard sales is really based where you live. And I really do believe that. If you are living in a big city, where there's a lot of folks around you, and there's a big video game scene, it's going to be really hard. You'd have to be very, very diligent to be able to find something worthwhile. And you'd have to be willing to get up and know that you're going to spend certain amount of hours on a whatever day going out looking for a game, and you may not find anything. So you just got to be willing to do all that. And if you can do that and you have the time to do that, then that will be the best way to build your collection. And I don't think anyone could ever argue anything like that, because that's where you'll probably be able to cut and negotiate the best deals. Although I've been hearing that folks that are holding yard sales are getting hip to the game, and they're understanding that that they can get some money for their items. But there are definitely still places and definitely still times where you can find some yard sales or even some pop-up stands. And I was lucky enough to get a copy of Castlevania. Let's get this in focus here. So this is the Dracula X Chronicles. This is for the PSP. This is kind of like a 3D side-scrolling version of Castlevania, which is pretty interesting. I played it. This was one of the first games that I got on the PSP, and I played this a lot. Cool thing about this is that when you beat it, I believe it unlocks Castlevania Symphony of the Night, so you can actually play that on your PSP, which is really cool. And you don't really have to download it because it's right there in the game. So this is something that's very cool, and this was one that I was able to snag up. But yeah, so those would be the 3 methods that I would say that you can go about collecting and getting games for your whole collection. I think it just depends on how much time versus money versus energy and research and attention you're willing to pay to details. All that goes into it, and I think the more diligent you are with that, you'll achieve success regardless of which route you choose. And as most collectors will tell you, I'm sure we've explored all of these options at some point or another, especially when it came to getting those higher end games. And I know some of you are thinking, well, geez, how can you say all that stuff and not mention video game conventions? I guess just because video game conventions are just so on the nose. Like, I mean, of course, you're going to be able to find games at the video game conventions. That's what's there. But most folks don't have the time, again, to actually go to a video game convention, unless they're a true diehard gamer. And I love me some video games, but not that much. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. If there's one near my city that I can actually get to, I'd love to go check one out. I'm sure it's a great atmosphere, great environment. You can meet some great people, but haven't had a chance to do anything like that. But that does it for this Monday night thought session. If you've stayed for this whole video, you're awesome. And I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Again, I am the Y2K Collector coming at you on a Monday evening, and you enjoy this week. Take it easy.